Hello friends, welcome back to another Magic Monday. We have eclipsed the 50 and 40 episode mark, and we are here to look at a deck called Herding Cats with a Planeswalker, Ajani Unyielding. 6 mana cost for this Planeswalker with a +2 ability of reveal the top 3 cards of your library. Put all non-land permanents into your hand and the rest on the bottom. For -2, exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. Or -9, put 5 1/1 counters on each creature you control and 5 loyalty counters on each other planeswalker you control. So this is the third, I want to say, deck that I have done in this series where the idea is to put a whole bunch of planeswalkers of a particular character from the Magic lore in the deck. So this is an Ajani deck. We did a Lily deck called Oops All Lilies. We did a Chandra Pyromancer deck that had like 8 Chandra planeswalkers in it. And this is the Ajani one. So let's take a look. Behind the hood. 3.5 mana cost, 35 white, 30 green, pretty even split. 20 creatures, 39 non-creatures. Of those 20 creatures, only 3 are cats. But Ajani's a cat, so hence the title Herding Cats. 1 instant, 4 sorceries, 6 artifacts, 20 enchantments, 9 planeswalkers, 6 of which are Ajani, and 1 battle. So this is your, in a lot of ways, prototypical white-green deck. It's all about putting counters on creatures, and it's stupid, and it's very typical, which is kind of unlike me for this series, but every once in a while, I want to do something that's just kind of my spin on what's popular out there. So we've got like Ajani's Welcome, because his name is in it. He had to be here, right? Ajani's Pridemate. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on it, because this is a stupid broken card. So it's a lot of cards that either gain life or put counters or otherwise strengthen our creatures. Gain life and add counters. Lifelink to help gain life and gets +1/1 if you have an Ajani. Paladin class, creatures get +1/1 at level 2. Thirsting Roots lets us proliferate all of our counters or just search for a land if need be. Ossification for some removal, not renewal. Druid class, I also put in a lot of classes, but this one is landfall, gain a life whenever a land enters their battlefield. Duskshell Crawler. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Each creature you control with a 1/1 counter has trample. That's an important key. There's a couple of cards in here that do that. Ranger class, +1/1 counter on attacking creature. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Proliferate. So this is like a really good regrowth. Regrowth used to be such an overpowered card, and then they release Unnatural Restoration, which is regrowth for the same cost, but you proliferate. Crazy. Fall of the Imposter, 1/1 counters. Botanical Brawler with 1/1 counters, and whenever you put a 1/1 counter on another target permanent you control, if it's the first time, put a counter on this guy, so he can get really big. Especially with Conclave Mentor, where you put that many counters +1 on it. Oath of Ajani, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and Planeswalkers cost less, that's cool. Trelisara, whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on her, and scry 1. The Trelisara decks are super busted and not fun to play against, so she's in here as one of the 99, just like Heliod down here. Arcane Signet for a Mana Rock. Basri Ket, put a 1/1 counter on target creature, gains on Indestructible. Ghostly Prison, I love that they reprinted Propaganda but made it white and mythic. But creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature that they control that's attacking you. So it's a good control card. Search for Glory lets us find a planeswalker. Branching Evolution lets us double the 1/1 counters. Evolution Sage lets us proliferate whenever a land enters the battlefield. Pride Malkin gives each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it has trample, and put a counter on it when this enters the battlefield. This Paladin here, as long as you've put 1 or more 1/1 counters on a creature this turn, she has trample and lifelink. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on that creature. Stupid, broken card. Because that's this whole deck. is using like this 1/1 counter exploit to make something ridiculously stupid. Some mana rocks, because of course. Dueling Coach distributes some counters, and then pay 1 tap, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. So it's basically 1 tap, proliferate creatures. And then we got our Ajanis. The +1, put a counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Ajani's, let's go to this one. This Ajani, Strength of the Pride, gain life equal to the number of creatures you control plus the number of planeswalkers you control. Can make more Ajani Pride mates, and for 0, if you have at least 15 more life than your starting life total, exile this card and each artifact and creature your opponents control. Basically, if you are at 40 life, win the game. Ajani's Influence for 4 mana, put 2 1/1 counters on target creature, look at the top 5 cards of your library, reveal a white card from among them and put it into your hand. Not a great card, honestly, but his name is in it, so it's gotta be here. Semester's End, exile any number of target creatures and/or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of the next step, return them to the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter or an additional loyalty counter, if it's a planeswalker. So for 4 mana, we can protect ourselves from a board wipe and also return things with 1/1 counters. So if by some chance we have a couple creatures out or a couple planeswalkers out and we want to get them a little bit of bump, we can do this. Shalai gives everything hexproof except for herself, and for 6 mana you could put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. This guy here, this plant creature thing, lets us find some forests, and then comes into play as a big reachy plant thing. Whatever. Johnny Sleeper Agent can give poison counters to our opponent if we get him to his ultimate. But for -3, you could distribute 3 1/1 counters among up to 3 target creatures, and they gain vigilance until end of turn. And it's also Ajani, so whatever, he's here. Another Ajani, this one, creatures you control have vigilance. You gain 3 life, or -2, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and a loyalty counter on each other planeswalker you control. Kind of nice. Invasion of Moag, 4 mana. When it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and then when you kill this battle, you get a creature with 3/3 and Ward 2. At the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Lathiel, the Bounteous Dawn, the legendary unicorn with lifelink. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain life this turn, distribute up to that many 1/1 counters among any number of other target creatures. Stupid. Cat, because cat, and also 1/1 counters. Oh, not enough of Johnny's? Well, here's another one. Gain 1 life for each creature you control. Creatures you control get +2/2 until end of turn. Or put X 1/1 creature, X 1/1 counters on target creature, where X is your life total. Insane. Removal here with Elspeth Conquers Death. Goldmane Griffin is not great. It's 5 mana for a 3/2 flying Vigilant Griffin, but you can search for Ajani Inspiring Leader, and we'll get to him in just a second. Virtue of Loyalty lets us make a token or put 1/1 counter on each creature you control at the end of every one of your end steps. Man, I can't talk today. Doubling Season will double the number of tokens that are created or double the amount of counters that we put on a permanent we control, whether it's loyalty counters on our planeswalkers or 1/1 counters on our creatures. Primal Vigor. Same thing. Literally the same card. Vornaclex lets us find some forests and then potentially distribute 7 1/1 counters and fight a bunch of things. It's just a silly broken card. And here's the Ajani Inspiring Leader. For +2, gain 2 life, put 2 1/1 counters on up to 1 target creature. For -3, exile target creature. Its controller gains 2 life. That's also in the Ajani Unyielding, but this one costs 3, the other one costs 2. And for -10, creatures you control gain flying and double strike. I don't know why they're flying. They're pretty much all cats, but they're flying cats, and they get double strike, so the game's over. This is fun. Creatures you control with 1/1 counters on them have base power and toughness 4/4, have flying, and are angels. So we can make a whole army of angels really easily. And then we got a couple Vivs, because why not? She adds some 1/1 counters. She adds some 1/1 counters, and oh, that was it for Vivs. All right, we got 2 Vivs. Then we got this Vornaclex that doubles counters that are put onto a permanent or player. So that would be play this and then a Planeswalker, and you can almost always immediately do your ultimate with this in play. Also just silly. Nyx Bloom Ancient for the triple mana whenever you tap a permanent for mana. Virtue of Strength. If you tap a basic land for mana, it produces 3 times as much. So with this and Nyx Bloom Ancient out, which I have done a couple of times, it is a stupid amount of mana. I can't even put it into words. And then the other Vornaclex, whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type that land produced, and whenever your opponent taps a land for mana, that land doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So we have 2 Vivs, 3 Vornaclexes, and 6 Ajanis in this deck, and then we just have some lands. Anyway, it's not an original deck. I mean, it's an original deck, but it's not an original idea for a deck by any stretch. White-green with +1/1 counters. I mean, like, that's so cliche. But every once in a while, like I said, I kind of just wanted to play with something different. In a Ajani deck where the focus is on cards that are Ajani based, whether it's his name in it or if it's actually a Planeswalker as him, as the card, I just think it's kind of fun to dip out of the weird series like the Check Out My Only Lands video. But don't worry, next week we'll be back with kind of a weird tribal deck. I've already actually recorded the games for that one, and I'm really excited to share that one because it's very weird. At least I think it's weird, at least as a tribal deck goes. But hey, no spoilers. Friends, if you enjoy this video, you know what to do. As always, please be kind to yourselves and each other, and let's get to some games.